Is sales and marketing an operating expense? Many of us are treating marketing expense like maybe I can instead of the fuel that actually drives the ship. If you stop spending money on marketing and sales, revenue dies, and yet that's what we pull the plug on first. By the end of this video, you're going to know how to categorize and budget marketing and sales for predictable growth. Hey, before I go any further, I'm feeling super uncomfortable. Why? As you look at the title of this video, is sales and marketing an operating expense? I can't go any further. Marketing has to go before sales. I know everybody's used to saying sales and marketing, sales and marketing. It's marketing before sales. You can't build something you haven't built. You can't build something you haven't sold, and you can't sell something if they don't know you exist. So let's just all agree that marketing goes before sales for the sake of this conversation. It is notorious when we start working with a client, usually one of the things we'll get is either they're in great shape with their marketing pipeline or they're in horrible shape with their marketing pipeline. And usually it goes something like this. If they're in great shape, we're like, hey, congratulations. By the way, you're going to get complacent over time, so can we commit to these activities? They're like, oh, we don't market, we don't advertise, everything's word of mouth, we're good to go. And they kind of ignore it and just move on. And in 6 or 12 months, their pipeline goes really thin, predictably, and now we got to go back to work on it. Or the flip side is, we come in as somebody, their pipeline is notoriously thin, they really go to work on our marketing and sales plan, they get their pipeline up, and then they ignore it again, and it goes back down. Marketing and sales is notoriously this ebb and this flow, and this peak and this trough. And so one of the things we need to commit to with marketing and sales is creating consistency that brings exponential value over time. Albert Einstein is quoted with saying, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. And so when we look at consistency of marketing and sales, what it delivers over time is a compound effect. So it's not just you insert $1 today and you get $1.10 back tomorrow, but you might get $1.10 back in a year if you do it today. And so we want to look at marketing and sales not as a cost, but as an investment over time. So the ultimate question, is marketing and sales an operating expense? The short answer, yes. We need to treat it as such. But too many of us treat it as sort of this, well, I got extra cash in my pocket, so let me deploy it to this marketing person over here. I got extra cash in my pocket, I heard somebody else was running paid ads, so let me go run paid ads. I got money in my pocket, I see that guy's doing well on a billboard, let me go buy a billboard. And so what we're doing is we're constantly reacting rather than being thoughtful and proactive into a marketing and a sales plan that's actually going to deliver predictable results. So I want to give you some numbers that I think will be helpful when you're thinking through the operating expenditures of a business. Now, I want to draw your attention. I actually put together a super powerful video in our cash flow series where I talk about how to break down and budget your business. And so in it, you subdivide your cash accounts and all that. So I want you to click on the link in the description below and make sure you make time to go watch that video. It will revolutionize the monetary aspects of your business. It'll give you a lot of margin if you'll start doing what we laid out in that subdivided bank account. So go click on that link below. In that video, I talk about having a bank account dedicated to operating expense. And so in operating expense, part of the money that's going to come out of that bank account is going to be for marketing and for sales. In fact, we have some people that have a separate bank account just for marketing and sales because they want to see the money that's coming in their receivables. They want to cut it up so it's got its individual home so they know exactly how much they're spending on these things. So when they buy a CRM, when they hire a marketing person, whatever, all the money comes out of that so they can cost code it. You don't have to do that, but it sure is helpful to be able to see the money that's being earmarked for that. So when you've got your operating expense bank account set up, what percentage of the money in that account is going to come out so that you can deploy it in marketing and sales? Well, there's a little range that I want you to consider. And I got this from a friend of mine who owns a marketing agency, and here's what he told me. Of your gross margin, that is your total revenue minus your cost of goods if you have them, whatever's left over, you would call your gross margin, or some would call it real revenue. Of your real revenue, you want to look to spend about 3 to 13% of that real revenue on marketing efforts. Now, that marketing is not just paid ads, it's also the software, the people, everything related to going and developing prospects gets cost coded as a marketing expense. And you want to go deploy about 3 to 13%. Now, I'll tell you, 3% is pretty low, and 13%, pretty high, pretty aggressive to be able to do that. But that gives you a good starting point to understand what your marketing spends look like. Now, most people don't have a problem with coming up with a percentage. They have a problem with identifying what costs actually go into marketing. And it's about a 10-minute exercise. Just think of everything that you do, every person you deploy, every machine you deploy, every ad that you deploy in order to get prospects, add it up. There's your marketing spend for the year. And so take that number and put it into your gross margin for the year. That'll tell you what percent that you're spending on marketing in any given year. Now, you might look at that and go, well, Scott, you said marketing and sales are separate systems. They are. And so that was a 3 to 13% on marketing, but that does not include the sales. Because there's sales, there's the sales appointment, there's the sales follow-up, there's the sales conversion that goes and builds out a full sales system. And so we've got to compensate the sales system as well. So you might have a marketing person that develops the lead, then you have a salesperson that closes the lead, and for many business owners under 100 employees, those might be the same people that do the same thing. But we're going to budget them separately and what that looks like. It's actually not that hard to do. And so when you commission a salesperson, I want you to think about their compensation this way. Where marketing is going to be more fixed cost around your compensation, sales is going to be more variable costs. And here's a neat little structure that you can set up that I think will be helpful in order to deploy the right salespeople to help deliver that system. Is you can give them a 3-tiered compensation structure. Tier number 1 is what we call a livable base tier. What does that mean? That means the livable base is going to allow them to pay groceries, pay their rent, just to kind of keep life going. But it's not going to be a significant amount. They're not going to be able to grow their lifestyle out of that livable base. The second tier is what we call sales commissions. So they get a livable base, $1,000 a month, $500 a month, $6,000 a month, whatever you come up with at that. And then they get commission on top of that, but that commission should equal probably about double or more of their livable base on any given year. And then there's a third tier to really get the motivation juices flowing, and that's what we call a tiered kicker bonus. So they have their livable base that they get every month. Then they have their commission structure that fluctuates up and down, that's very variable. Then they have their kicker bonuses, and that is, hey, if you land 100 clients in a quarter, or whatever metric you want to come up with, then you'll get a one-time check for $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. So you've got this 3-tiered structure for your sales, while you've also got a budget for your marketing. So I gave you a range of 3 to 13% of your gross margin for your marketing budget. If you look at sales, that's probably going to be somewhere between 5 and 20% of your gross margin. Now, it's going to vary depending on industry and all sorts of things, but it will help give you a start. So if you just want to start at 10% and really start to budget and see what that compensation would look like of your gross margin, then you can go from there. Always be careful of compensating and commissioning your salespeople on the total revenue, because there's a lot of variable cost in there that could change, and depending on what they sell, they could actually not sell you a profitable product and still get their full commission on that. That's why we want to look to commission people on the gross margin instead. Now, there's a little side principle that I want to share with you, and that is this. Marketing and sales are investments, they're not cost. These are investments. That's why I mentioned that compound effect and that compound return earlier, is because you want to look at this as not a dollar spent and a dollar lost. That's not it. It's a dollar spent and a dollar invested. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you spend your marketing money and your sales money and it just flies out the back door, then it will be lost. But if you're investing instead, that's a different thing. I'll give you an example of that. So I do YouTube educational content. That is a long-term recurring investment, meaning I invest $1 in time and money and effort in this process. These are evergreen. They're up for a long period of time, so they continue to return. People can continue to watch these over time. Versus if I go do a talk somewhere, which I did this past year, and it returned nothing. That was $1 inserted, and I probably won't see any value from that. So you do need to be mindful of where you place your dollars. And part of the reason I won't see value of that is because that particular group did not allow us to follow up. So the only return I got on that was the stipend they gave me for the actual talk. So I want you to see your marketing and sales expense as investment, and then in your chart of accounts and your bookkeeping. I know some of you are like, whoa, you're getting way too technical. Listen, if you're a business owner and you don't follow and flow on these things, you're not going to have a business for long. And so you need to understand what a P&L is and what a chart of accounts are. Just look it up. But the reality is we need to align our chart of accounts, and you should have a marketing section and a sales section within your chart of accounts. And under marketing should be like your CRM, it should be paid ads line, different things like that, so you can start to carve out what you spend on marketing and what you spend on sales. So understand your P&L, understand your chart of accounts. That will help you see that your marketing and sales is an investment and not a cost. And all of this put together will start to give you some relief from the chaos you feel, because ultimately as a business owner, it's a life filled with chaos unless we can build systems around it. And so now we want to commit to building a marketing system and a sales system. Why? So you can be liberated from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.